It is Mr. Olympia week. Are you pumped? I am. Welcome to the Bodybuilding Authority. And today's video, Mike Sommerfeld should move to open bodybuilding. Or 212. What do you think? Mike Sommerfeld looks absolutely incredible right now, but this news it's not leaving the cycle. This is news that's relevant and people are all over it. I have to say that the mysterious letter from the IFBB Pro League is very difficult to find. I'm not sure if it's a Brazilian fan that made a fake letter, but there's nothing official that is up on the IFBB Pro League, the NPC site. There's nothing official there that's saying that they are actually going to remeasure everyone. We've been told that it is official, that they are going to remeasure everyone. So this news is still very, very relevant. But as for Mike Sommerfeld, like I said, he looks incredible right now, but maybe too incredible for Classic Physique. He's bigger than ever, and that raises the question nobody wants to ask. Should Mike Sommerfeld move to the 212 or even the open division? Let's talk about this. So here's the thing. Mike Sommerfeld's on a tear. He won the Arnold Classic. He was the top three. He finished second place last year at the Olympia, as everyone knows. That, in some people's eyes, makes him the favorite to go into the Olympia this year and win it. I've done my predictions. You can watch that video, and I don't have Mike winning the Classic Physique. But here's an even more important question. Will he even make the weight? Now, Nick Strength and Power did a video and talked about how he wasn't sure or couldn't find how anyone in the past had ever been disqualified for not making weight. And that's a great question, and that really is relevant right now. Mike Sommerfeld, right now, this week especially, and let me tell you, peak week is very, very stressful at the best of times. But when you've got this controversy looming over your head, when you think to yourself, okay, am I going to make the height category that I was at last year, which was 5'9" and a little bit, therefore that allows me to go up to 212 pounds. And if not, I've got to lose 8 pounds in basically an hour. That was the rule in the past. Maybe it's different, but again, we couldn't find anybody that had ever been disqualified from the Olympia for not making weight at the height. Now, there's always a first. And because this is front and center, because this is big news, because everyone's talking about this, if they do in fact remeasure everyone, and again, I haven't found anything official from the IFBB Pro League or from the NPC. I haven't seen anything official that says they are going to, but let's just assume they are going to remeasure everyone. Mike needs to think about that this week. He needs to come in as close to 204 as possible while keeping his fullness and staying shredded and all the things that he needs to do this week. But he can't take a chance at coming in at 212. If he steps on the scale at 212 and then measures 5'9" or under, he's got to lose 8 pounds. And let me tell you, I've had to lose weight for a number. I was a wrestler. I was an MMA competitive fighter. I was a martial. I had to lose weight for a lot of different reasons. Bodybuilder. I had to make weight. And I got to tell you, it is not easy to lose even a pound when you are shredded. You're basically going to have to, sacrifice muscle. What you're going to do is you're going to manipulate the water. The problem is if you are coming into the weigh-in and you're already dehydrated, you've already taken a diuretic or two, you've already done all the things that they do to prepare to get on that scale, and Mike's coming in thinking 212 and he's got to be 204, it's going to be almost impossible for him to make weight. So this is very, very important. Is he going to have to consider going in 212? Is he going to have to maybe consider going into open? But Mike, based on paper only, is the favorite because he has finished second place last year and won the Arnold Classic this year. So he is the favorite going into the Olympia. So he has proven that he can hang with the best, but Classic Physique was designed for balance and flow, not open level density. And he's got open level density, or coming close to open level. He's 212 density. He's looking more and more like an open bodybuilder or 212 bodybuilder than Classic Physique. And, this height controversy came at a really bad time for him because, again, we're talking, it's peak week. And this just came out last week, this whole controversy about his hair and him making weight. So he's going to have to rethink peak week with his coach. But his structure is starting to fight against those divisions limits. And, the height to weight restrictions, as we mentioned, if he's 5'9", it's 204. You could only weigh 204 at the most if you are 5'9". If you're 5'9.25", you can go up to 212. So, I posted the measurements and the height and the weight for, before. Here it is again. And there's not a lot of room for error. And again, if you're coming in properly, you're coming in dry and dehydrated and there's no water left in your body to make 212, and then they tell you got to make 204, that's going to be devastating. So every time he grows in the off season, he has to diet even harder to squeeze into Classic, and that's not sustainable. We saw it with Urs, we're seeing it with Ramon, we're seeing it with Mike. So there is a big difference. If you look at these photos of Mike, his off season versus what he looks like on the stage, it is insane, the transformation. Especially this last year, he put on a ton of size. He is enormous in the off season and looks an awful lot like a lot of open bodybuilders, a lot of 212 bodybuilders. So the thing is, he's either going to be too flat to make the weight, or he's going to be too big to even qualify. So this may be the year where we see someone not qualify for Classic Physique based on the height weight that they have in their rules. So this is going to be very, very interesting to watch and to see. And this controversy is not going away. We're going to be following this all the way up to the show. In open, Mike wouldn't have to starve to keep his fullness. Now he's full and he's thick and he's dense. And if he moved up to open or even 212, although 212 is what he weighs now, really. He weighed close to 212 last year in Classic Physique. So for him to go to 212, basically what you see is what you get. Now, could he look as good at 225, at 230, 240 to be an open? Who knows? But when you compare his shape and proportions to someone like Keon, to someone like Behruz Tabani, who are similar, their height is similar, but we're talking Keon is it's night and day. Behruz Tabani, it's night and day. Behruz is a little bit taller. Urs might make the top 10. I hope he does because of his structure and the size he's put on. But can Mike compete right now with the likes of Keon Pierce, with the likes of Behruz Tabani, Keon in 212 and Behruz in open? I don't think so. His conditioning lines would stand out, obviously, in a smaller open lineup, like the Prague Pro or the Tampa Pro, that kind of a thing. But against the monsters at the Olympia, I think Mike would get buried. So he's in a real interesting state. He's got the wheels to be, he's got the legs to be an open bodybuilder 212. He's got he's got the muscle density to do it. It's just, is making the weight, is it getting harder and harder and harder for him? And I believe it certainly is. He wouldn't need to chase weight in open. He wouldn't need to chase weight in 212, really. I mean, he would basically just be what he is now. He could get obviously a little more thicker for 212 and then come in a little more full, a little more dense, and still look amazing with those lines. He could grow, focus on bringing up that freaky fullness that he already has. But here's the flip side. Moving to open changes your entire look. And we might see that with Urs. We might see that with Dino. We might see that with if you move up to open, it does change your look. I mean, if you want to just look at what Derek looks like right now versus when he won the 212 Olympia, it's night and day. It changes everything. It changes that flow. And when you're at a certain height, the more weight you put on, the more it affects the look of your structure. So guys that are shorter have to be more careful with the amount of weight. Like, again, I'll just use Derek, and there's not a whole lot more that no more muscle that he can put on that frame. He has got as much muscle on that frame as humanly possible at that height. So, when you chase size, your waist gets thicker, your lines start to fade, and that magic classic look starts to disappear. And I think that's what we're starting to see with Mike. And we've seen this before. Regan Grimes is a good example. Regan Grimes was in classic for a minute, then he went into open, and he doesn't look the same at all. Now, is he making an impact in open? I think he will this year. I think he'll finish top 10. He did finish 9th in the past. That was a year where I think that was COVID year, and there was a lot of people that didn't make the show that year. Not to take away from what Regan did. He looked fantastic, and I do think he's a sleeper. I think he's going to, if he can come in the way I think he can come in, I think he's going to be a top 10 finisher in a stacked lineup this year. But Mike's strength is his shape. And if he can manage that size, he could dominate classic for another year or so. But the thing is, he's got to be able to make weight. That is going to be the biggest hurdle for him, right now. Now, here's where I stand. If Mike can still make weight without flattening out, stay in classic, and win it all, but if not, he's got to step up. So if Mike can't win this year, and I think he's in for a battle this year, and I don't think it has anything to do with the height to weight thing. I just think Mike is in for a battle against a few juggernauts coming up in Classic Physique, the same as Open. There's some people that are going to make a lot of noise. So I'm not sure that Mike is the automatic winner. Mike has he has the tools to be a top open competitor within a few years, or within a couple of years. At least at 212, I think he could really shine at 212. But I don't think he's ready for open just yet. But I think he's starting to slide into that look. And it's not about, staying comfortable for bodybuilding. It's about competing where your body wants to be. And that's, again, I keep harping on this, but that's why Urs moved out of Classic. That's why Ramon's going to move out of Classic. And I think Mike will ultimately have to, because this height to weight thing is it's getting kind of out of control. So, when you look at what Mike is up against, when you look at Diesel, when you look at Ramon, when you look at the guys that I think Diesel, based on these updates, I think Diesel's going to win the whole thing myself, and I think Ramon could finish second, and Mike could be in third, but it's going to be close. I don't think Mike is an automatic win here. I think he A, has to make weight, and B, has to beat some incredible bodybuilders. Rough Diesel is the real deal, and he looks incredible right now. Ramon Dino, he's on a mission, because he knows he was off last year, and he's not going to make that same mistake. So what does Ramon look like going into the Classic Physique this year? So I think Mike's in for a battle either way, but I think the biggest battle right now is making weight for him. So, what do you think? What do you think? Is Mike Sommerfeld too big for Classic? Is it time that he joins, 212? Is it time for him to move up to Open? What do you think? Does Mike Sommerfeld belong in Classic Physique, or is he too big for Classic Physique? Again, we look at, Keon's the same thing. Keon's going to dominate 212 this year. It's time for him to move on to Open. I think he could go into Open this year and maybe crack the top 5, maybe crack the top 3. I think he looks that good. I think Keon is one of the best bodybuilders on the planet. He has zero flaws. He has nothing missing. And I think Mike Sommerfeld is closing in on that same thing. I'm not comparing him to Keon, because Keon, I think, is way better. But Mike Sommerfeld is the next year or two, he's going to have some decisions to make about where he fits, where his body fits. But leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Do you think he needs to move up? Do you think he's going to make weight? Do you think he's going to win? Those are 3 important questions. So I look forward to your comments. As I mentioned, I do read them all, and I will reply to all the comments. This is the Bodybuilding Authority. Thank you for tuning in. Take care, guys.